remember not too long ago this poll that implied that people like AOC, Ilhan Omar would be damaging to the Democrats in battleground districts? You might have seen an article like this. Anonymous, this is Axios, by the way, I think, who initially put it out. This leaked poll shows that swing voters deeply dislike AOC and the left wing widening the party's rift. And so be really scared about them. Them being the face of the party, is that a good thing? Maybe a bad thing. But the thing about that poll was that we had no information about who they actually talked to. It turned out it was basically Trump voters that they talked to. And so they designed a poll to make her look bad. And now that we have some more information where we can actually look at the methods in battleground districts, we have a much better idea about who is popular and who is not. And so initially, let's jump ahead of this quote. Let's show you the new information from Data for Progress. We bring up this chart. You're gonna see, it's a lot to take in, especially on a phone, so don't worry so much about the bars. Just look at the net favorability on the right. Now, this is combining in battleground districts, people on the left, people on the right, and the center, and so everybody is gonna fare pretty poorly because the other side is probably gonna despise them. But if you look at that there, AOC is at a -6 net favorability, including Republicans and Democrats, which might sound bad. But if you look at other politicians, national politicians like Mitch McConnell or Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, they're doing far worse. Mitch McConnell's at a net -29, which means that both Democrats and Republicans aren't fans of him.
Yeah, this was something that was put out by people to paint actual progressives in a negative light. They explicitly went around, they had their conclusion they wanted to draw, and they looked around to find out how they could draw it, how they could make something that looks like a chart, that looks like a quote, and just put it in a bunch of articles and put it out to folks. And that's exactly what happened. And it's very frustrating. My point is, like, who are the 5% of Democrats who see Mitch McConnell very favorably? Or is that just people at all? Are these all Democrats? Like, this is what's so frustrating about it.
That would be
of people in organizations in battleground districts. So in battleground districts, 5% of people find Mitch McConnell to be viewed in a very favorable light.
I think that's overall. He's very unpopular even amongst Republicans.
He's stupid.
Yeah.
The Republican Party, very unfavorable. The red is also very much bolder.
It's very dark, which sounds good for a Republican, but not in this case.
But that's
so there are some other lessons to be learned here. First of all, if we could bring that up just briefly, considering what happened yesterday with the DNC voting down a climate-focused debate, just take note that the most favorable person or organization are clean energy companies. It turns out fossil fuel companies, not very favorable. The gap in favorability overall net between clean energy and fossil fuel is 77 points. So maybe try to get them on your side.
But that's what's very frustrating to me, is the term moderate now no longer applies to your positions. It just applies to how much you want to fight for stuff. Like, the moderate position is to favor clean energy companies. The moderate position is to have a favorable view of climate activists. And you see people like AOC, Ayanna Pressley, Justice Democrats, they are climate activists. It's just along the way. That's why I think all of this is way too complicated. All of this is just another attempt to solidify control in one way or another. And we should just let people know what progressive positions are.
Well, we're trying to do that here.
Yeah,
we certainly are trying. Yeah, look, I've said for a long time, this is one of, I have a lot of positions that absolutely nobody likes, and one of them has been for a long time, I've said, and this is based on my time in political science research, moderates don't exist, independents don't really exist, it's not a thing. Like, you could identify as that, but it doesn't mean what people say it means. People have value systems, they just do, and things do cluster in particular ways. Now, you can have more or less political knowledge, more or less political sophistication, more or less apathy or passion for politics, but you don't just randomly choose policies from across the political spectrum, or at least very, very few people do. And anyway, that's a larger conversation.
Yeah, but and then just specifically, yeah, I agree. Moderate is a label that people can do whatever they want. It's just a label you can stick on stuff. And what's frustrating from the Young Turks perspective, working here, is looking at all of our positions that we espouse and seeing that they are widely supported by the giant swath of Americans, which would make our views essentially, in a certain way, moderate, but we don't enjoy like all of the amazing things that those news outlets that are perceived to be moderate do enjoy, like CNN, MSNBC, and even Fox. They're like the mainstream moderate news in people's mind, because mainstream and moderate seem to be interchangeable in a lot of ways, even though that's frequently a fallacy.
They're not fringe or
but
extreme.
they just have a lot of money coming in.
Yeah.
And from a bunch of people who are like, well, they seem safe here.
Yeah. Yeah, because, and I would say arguably because what moderate tends to mean is pro-corporate.
Even though, right, even though our views are more in line with the country.
Yeah, they are extremely popular, except that always gets cut off somehow. So really fast, a couple more lessons to take from this. On net, among voters in battleground districts, Ocasio-Cortez polls at least as well as other major Democratic figures. Although all political figures had negative net favorability, this is America after all, Ocasio-Cortez is viewed roughly as favorable on net as Joe Biden and more favorably on net than President Donald Trump and Democratic leadership. So just, if you're a MAGA head, I know that you hate her and you think that she's the worst, but she's far more popular than your president.
And psychologically, there are certain generic concepts that are easy to favor and certain generic concepts that are easy to hate. The idea of making the world a better place sounds more like clean energy. That's easy to favor.
Yeah.
Congress is a generic concept that's easy to hate. And in the middle, as you get more specific, there's other variations like AOC. I don't know that much about her, but she seems to be for the making the world a better place thing. So it's easier to like her. And then that's when the right comes in and tries to give you more reasons as you get more knowledge of her to hate her. And that's where then she could be lumped in with concepts like Congress if they get their way.
Yeah, or whatever extreme positions they pretend that she has. But additionally, each member of the squad, this is AOC, Ayanna Pressley, Ilhan Omar, and Rashida Tlaib, had a higher net favorability than Donald Trump, Mitch McConnell, and the Republican Party in battleground districts. So Tucker and Laura Ingraham and Sean Hannity, like I know that you've tried really hard for months and months, especially to make people hate Ilhan Omar. Turns out it's not really working, unfortunately, for them. And by the way, good news for Elizabeth Warren. She has the highest favorable rating of any Democrat in battleground districts, especially among independents. Although people like her, Bernie Sanders, tend to be more popular than some of like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, things like that. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.